Time to vote for Joe Biden. Plain and simple, dude. There's no other option. You have to. And again, I was one of the people before who was like, no, I hate Joe. I hate Joe. I still hate Joe. I hate everything that he stands for. But that used to be my main focus. The fact that this guy's a corrupt neoliberal war criminal, voted for the war in Iraq, wrote the bankruptcy bill, wrote the 94 crime bill, and instituted all the practices of mass incarceration with the 3 strikes laws and the mandatory minimums and the entire structure of a rigged criminal justice system. He is directly responsible for such actions. Again, voted for the war in Iraq, voted for the Patriot Act, was literally the guy for one of the largest banks in the mid-Atlantic. He was known as their guy. They could call him up on a daily basis and say, hey, Joe, can you put this into the little bankruptcy bill? Of course, I got you, because you funded my campaign, going behind our backs to the Wall Street, big fundraising donors, and then literally saying to their faces, nothing will fundamentally change. He's that guy. I get it. But the fact of the matter remains, as I just said, dude, this is a crisis. This is becoming a crisis of incredible proportions when you're talking about 28 million people who could be kicked out on their ass. I want you to imagine for a second what that looks like. When 28 million people could be kicked out on their ass, where are they going to go? Well, I guess they're going to have to stay with a family member. What if they ain't got a family member? What if their family member got kicked out on their ass? Where are they going to go? What if they ain't got no space for them? Over at the families or the cousins or the friends? Where are they going to go? They're out in the streets, right? Millions of them are definitely going to be out in the streets. What's that going to look like? What's that going to look like when people are abandoning homes and they're foreclosed and kicked out and they can't stay in their homes because moratoriums expire? Because here in America, we have a rigged capitalist system. And if you ain't got the money to pay, you're kicked out. What's that going to look like when millions of people are out on the streets but homes are abandoned? What's that going to look like? What's that going to look like as more and more people lose their health insurance as they're kicked out of their jobs? What's that going to look like? 5 to 27 million people just lost their health insurance. What's that looking like? All the bankruptcies, all the piling debt, the explosion, as in the middle of a pandemic, as all of the health systems are pushed to the brink and people don't have health insurance, what's that going to look like? We're footing the bill. They're footing the bill. It's a disaster. It's a debt crisis of a scale you have never seen before. What's that looking like? And meanwhile, basic governing can prevent absolute chaos in this scenario. Basic governing. You want to know how I know that? Because we see it in Germany. Their unemployment rate increased by 1%. Ours increased by double digits. How does that happen? Because they nationalize the payroll. Because they institute basic contact tracing, they institute basic mask mandates, they institute basic health system reforms, where they say we have a pandemic, and because of the pandemic, as the economy shuts down, people can no longer go to work. So instead of allowing small businesses and vulnerable and firms and businesses to go under, instead we are going to foot the bill as the government. We are going to foot the bill as long as they agree to not kick people out of their job. And it worked. It worked. Across the developed world, basic governing worked. They put a lockdown in place from the jump. From the jump. Mask mandates across much of Europe from the jump. Contact tracing from the jump. They weren't kicking us out of the WHO and ignoring the virus, making literally 40% of the country be opposed to the basic wearing of masks and social distancing and threatening to cut funding if schools don't reopen. This is what Trump is engaging in. And because of this mismanagement of the highest levels, we are now facing an unprecedented crisis of epic proportions, with an economic depression now looming on our hands, where economists are now saying, Richard Wolff, an OG economist, now came out the other day saying this could be the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression. This is what it's shaping up towards. This is reality. And you want Donald Trump at the helm for the next 4 years of managing this shit? Dude, I don't know if we're going to survive that. Like, think honestly what it looks like as millions more get kicked out on their ass, as millions more lose their health insurance, as millions more contract the virus, and hundreds of thousands of more people die at the hands of this virus. And he continues to just ignore basic reality. Doesn't put in basic economic reforms to nationalize the payroll, institute a UBI. What does that look like? It's chaos. because people are dying every single day. They're sick of staying at home, but they're not being actually told to stay at home. They're sick of the chaos. They're sick of the mismanagement. They're sick of dying. They're sick of losing their jobs. They're sick of being kicked out on their ass. They're sick of the crisis itself. What's that look like? When there's no order, when no one's at the helm offering a steady hand, a steady calming presence, leadership. What's that look like? You're talking about unrest of a scale we have never seen before. It ain't just me talking about that. Richard Wolff's out here talking about that. All the experts across, economic experts, pandemic experts, epidemiologists, all of them are out here saying, dude, if we don't get a handle on this shit, this could become a clusterfuck of chaos. Clusterfuck of chaos, civil and social unrest, economic depression that will take us years, even decades to emerge from. A healthcare crisis where millions could die at the hands of this virus. It's time to elect Joe Biden. And there's signs that our words, that our movement, that our political pressure in terms of all of the youth, all the people supporting the racial justice movement, and then in turn the economic justice movement, all of us coming out here and pushing for progressive reform, that is moving Joe Biden to our direction. When he announced a $2 trillion climate plan that included many elements from the Green New Deal, a civilian climate corps, talking about introducing millions of decent paying unionized climate jobs, talking about carbon neutral by 2035, introduced a $700 billion plan to bring back American jobs and buy American orders. This is what Joe Biden's talking about now. Just committed to tuition-free college for most families, not universal, but most families. Dude, he's moving in the right direction. Now, I'm not saying, like Bernie Sanders, that he's going to be the most progressive since FDR. I think that he's not going to do that unless we hold his feet to the fire and we continue that pressure. So that's now the job. Elect Joe Biden and hold his feet to the fire. Stay in the streets. Bring more people into the streets. Mobilize. Volunteer. Donate. Protest. And you protest under the banner of Medicare for all, of a living wage, of tuition-free college for all families, right? Of a Green New Deal. This is what we mobilize under. Not just abolishing the cops and abolishing prisons and defunding the police, but a comprehensive agenda that all communities get behind. You mobilize behind that for the next 4 to 8 years under a Biden presidency, and you will see real change. You will see real, comprehensive, progressive change because they will be forced to listen. They will be forced to listen. If we have a general strike and millions of people walk off their jobs under the banner that we are saying, no, we want a Green New Deal now. We want Medicare for all now. They have to listen. And Joe Biden is more compelled to listen to that than Donald Trump because he is literally in the middle of a crisis ignoring reality. Joe Biden is not that stupid. Joe Biden is not that incompetent. He will handle basic governing. And Joe Biden, unlike Donald Trump, will listen when a resounding social movement forces him to. That's reality. That's why you vote for Joe Biden. So that's what I'm compelling all y'all to do today, man. I'm voting for Joe Biden. I'm registered to vote now in Georgia, and I hope we turn Georgia blue because Donald Trump is scaring the fuck out of me. And I know damn well that thousands and thousands and thousands of more lives will be saved, millions of more jobs will be saved. The economy overall will emerge from this economic crisis. The healthcare systems will not be pushed to the brink for such a severe, long period of time under a Joe Biden presidency. That's thousands of lives saved. That's millions of jobs saved. That is a country saved from oblivion. I know that, and all of you know that too. Gotta vote for Joe. Gotta vote for Joe. I don't like it. I hate him. Hate what he stands for. But I know that we're saving lives when doing so. So it's time to do it, man. And most importantly, once you vote for Joe, you sign up, you protest, you volunteer, you get in the streets, and we mobilize for progressive change. So we hold him accountable. All right?